In today's episode, we are going to look at how 4,000-year-old record keeping, combined with modern technology, has given us a map to 11 ancient lost cities. This is Zach DTV, the place for interesting news from around the net, and let's get right into this. Not too long ago, some news came out about a 4,000-year-old Assyrian tablet that was covered in cuneiform script. This tablet was one of the oldest marriage contracts we've ever seen, and that was pretty exciting news. What they didn't get into is how there were 12,000 baked clay tablets found in this site. And Kültepe, that's the UNESCO World Heritage Site these came from, have given us all sorts of cool ancient artifacts. But back to the tablets. Since their discovery, researchers have been looking at them, and most of them just seemed like trade documents. And typically they read like this. From Dermot to Keynes, I incurred expenses of 5 minutes of refined copper. I spent 3 minutes of copper until Wasusana. I acquired and spent small wares for a value of 4 shekels of silver. I love that word shekels, that's just funny. Pretty boring stuff, right? Not something people would generally report on. So it kind of went by the wayside in the news cycle. That is, until the type of people who would be interested in this stuff got their hands on it. They were led by Harvard's senior lecturer of Assyriology, Gojko Barjamovic, along with a team of international economists. They decided to go through these tablets that detail trade relations and start picking out the names of these cities. They feel they've identified the names of 26 different locations. And when you look at the ancient cities that have been excavated, 11 of them haven't been found yet. So this was like an oh boy moment. We know there's at least 11 more lost Assyrian cities out there buried in the sands of time. The unfortunate thing is, none of these tablets gave locations. I mean, really, they didn't have GPS back then. But at the same time, that actually helped researchers with this process. Because back then, trade was a different creature than it is now. You figure your goods had to go on the back of donkeys, in carts, be hauled to the nearest location. There's roving bands of robbers and stuff out there. It was a lot harder to transport goods. So that caused people to do a lot more trade with their neighbors than with people further away. So they had to come up with a different way to pull data out of these tablets to find the location of these cities. And that's exactly what they did. After they went through all these tablets, they came up with a pretty good idea of what trade looked like around the city of Kanesh. So they took this data and arranged it like this. Let's say you start with Kanesh. You know where that's at, but yet you have 2 other cities mentioned there that you don't know the location of. They're both lost cities. But say Kanesh traded more with one city than the other. Well, then you can take the reasonable jump to city A was closer than city B. Makes sense. That gives you a general idea of where these may be. So that's a pretty good idea, but definitely way too spread out to start digging looking for a city. Well, that's where their algorithm came in. This uses information like population size of the cities, prices of commodities, and what was actually being sold to narrow down the actual distance between the 2 cities. And that gives you something closer to this. So now you're still left with this gigantic open region that you can't just walk around with a shovel and start digging in this big circle. But remember, they had more than just one city they knew of. So you start plugging this data in for the different known cities and look for where the circles cross. Pretty amazing stuff, right? It narrowed it down to this. And so yeah, you might say, hey Zach, but how do they know? You could say an ancient city was buried in your backyard. Until you dig it up, you're not really gonna know. Well, you're right. But they went through a lot of other historians' papers and historians' claims, and they found that most of the time, their guess coincided with other people's deductions as to where these lost cities might be. When it came down to 2 people who were arguing, or 2 groups that were arguing about the location, it generally favored one or the other. And it also did help to rule out some that were just out there in my backyard. Also went and ran the same numbers, the same program against known cities to tally distances between known archaeological sites. 2 out of 3 times, they were spot on. They did say that for central cities, it was spot on. When you got out to the peripheral ones where you didn't have as much data, that's where mistakes were being made. But by using this new technique and merging it with our old dig in the dirt style archaeology, this could really narrow down the areas where you put your shovel in the ground, hoping to find ancient artifacts. I just thought it was pretty neat to see how old record keeping and modern tech came together to really give us a good picture of our past. What do you think about this? Can you think of any other situations where this might be put into use to help find other lost civilizations? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this episode and want more, remember to like, share, and subscribe so I can keep bringing you interesting news 5 days a week. But with that being said, I'm going to take off, so have fun and be safe.